Now, ways in which we have discovered that we can help this energy expand and release is by breathing deeply. By deep breathing, we can get the energy moving, and we sort of get out of our minds and more into the feeling and let the feeling release. This often brings about crying or tears. Through making sounds, any kind of sounds which express the nature of what we are feeling. Through taking positions or making movements which express, as if you're doing pantomime, that is, if someone were to look at us and they saw the position of our body and saw the expression on our face and saw the movements of our body, that they could tell that we were feeling guilt or anger or hurt or whatever we were feeling. So that it's like getting consciously having the body move into that state, even though I'm not identified with it yet. But by moving physically into this, that helps us to connect with the emotion. So we do this kind of work also with the body and with the facial expressions. Now, this energy could be released by crying, by yawning, by shaking, by spasmodic movements. And all of these are not to be worried about if they come about. I mean, they are very natural ways in which the body is releasing this energy and coming into its balance. And you feel very wonderful after you've gone through this kind of catharsis. It really cleans out the system. And I think most of us need it. But I would not suggest that you try doing it by yourselves at first. If you can either come to one of our seminars or ask one of our group facilitators to work with you on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 private sessions. And then after you've gotten the idea of it, and we see that there's nothing, really horrible in there, then you can begin working by yourselves. Another way of, now once we have done this release, then we are in a state of emptiness, and then we can begin to analyze, and then we can begin to bring truth into our mind. You see, otherwise what we're doing is, when we're bringing truths into our minds and changing our belief system, without also doing catharsis, it's like polishing the floor without sweeping and washing it. So what do? We just encase the dirt into the floor. So when I start saying, I am a soul in evolution and I have no fear, and there's another part of me which is just very fearful and very hurt and very angry, I'm creating a split personality. And at some point in my evolutionary process, this is going to come out. And if I say I have no desires because I'm a spiritual being and I haven't worked with those desires, then at some point they're going to come out, you see. So we believe that we need to do this parallel with the psychological work that we're doing with the analysis. But once we have released, then the analysis and the bringing of the truths is much more effective, because we have created an empty space. It's not like trying to put water into a glass that already is full. Now we have an empty glass, and the water can go in. So the truths can go in even to the parts of ourselves which we're resisting. Otherwise, though we believe in the truth, but we have autonomous sections of ourselves which are separate from that truth and are functioning according to our childhood programming. We may consciously believe that I am a soul in the process of evolution, but I have this subconscious part which says I am a very vulnerable child. So then we go on to analysis and to working with truth. That could be done through the questionnaires, through the group discussions that we're having, through seminars, through keeping a diary. All of this work with the conscious mind is parallel to the catharsis work. Other techniques that we use is dialoguing. Dialoguing is when I speak with, I allow two parts of myself to speak with each other. This we do when we have inner conflict. So I have one part of myself which is not afraid. I have another part which is afraid. And so I speak with the part of myself which feels the fear, or which feels the anger, or feels the jealousy, and I have a discussion with that part of myself. I don't reject it. I try to understand it, because the big mistake that we make is in rejecting our emotional self. Rather than accepting it, communicating with it, and educating it. That part of myself does not need to be rejected, because its very presence is based on self-doubt. That is, I feel jealousy because I doubt myself. I am angry because I doubt myself. I am hurt because I doubt myself. So when I reject myself for feeling these emotions, then I just increase the cause. So what I need to do is to accept that part of myself and have a discussion with it. And this could be done in writing, or it could be done with 2 chairs or 2 pillows, in which I get up and change positions. One moment I speak from myself, which is not jealous, and then I speak from myself, which is jealous, or not fearful and fearful, not angry and angry. And I try to come to some understanding between those parts. Another technique that we use is called psychodrama, in which someone else helps us, usually one of our group facilitators or a psychologist, who will play the part of a person with whom we have a problem. And they may play the part of our mother or our father or our spouse or our child. And they try to help us to realize what's going on in us by asking us questions, but coming from that role. That is, we imagine that they are that other person. And this is a very also helpful and powerful technique, psychodrama. We also do what is called reverse psychodrama, in which the group, the facilitator or the psychologist plays us, and we play the other person whom we have the problem with. And we do this reverse psychodrama in order to help the person realize what the other person is feeling and what the other person needs. Because you have to get into the position of the other person to answer the questions that the psychologist or the facilitator is asking you. So another technique is reverse psychodrama, in which we become the other person. Another technique which we use much later in the process of helping somebody, if they seem very blocked and they're not able to get in touch with their emotions. We use this with very intellectual people, people who have used their mind very much to get away from their emotions, is the rebirthing technique, in which we do this rapid breathing process which stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and brings emotions to the surface. This can go on for an hour or even an hour and a half. It's called rebirthing because many people experience their birth, the process of their birth, which is considered one of the most traumatic experiences of our lives. We're coming out of the womb into the cold, very brightly lit room, and coming out of that sense of oneness and that total protection into a world which is quite hard and full of other kinds of emotions, you see. So rebirthing, however, is not exclusively for experiencing our birth process. It brings up all kinds of feelings which are suppressed. Another way that we try to help people work out the catharsis is through activity. If someone is having difficulty with very intense emotions, we might even avoid working with the subconscious until they feel more balanced. And we would suggest that they do work therapy, that they would have something which occupies themselves. And preferably in a garden, working with the earth, or working with clay, or working with anything with their hands, which would help them get out of their minds and become grounded in some way. We would not do these techniques with a person who is already very emotionally imbalanced. First, we would want them to find a certain amount of balance in their lives, and then move on to searching into the subconscious, if we choose to do that in that case. Another way is, another form of work which we find very helpful is serving others. We believe very much in and selfless service as a way for a person to find his inner peace. That is, forgetting himself for a few hours a week and offering something to someone who is in need. It could be an orphan, it could be an elderly person, it could be a poor person, a blind person, a paralyzed person, an ill person, or a lonely person, or it could even be serving nature, helping to plant trees, protect the environment, anything which expands us beyond the narrow limits of our ego-centered lives. Because our main problem is our ego-centeredness. I mean, it's interesting that Thomas Merton, recent philosopher, said that depression is the height of self-indulgence. That in order to be depressed, you have to be over-concerned about yourself. Am I getting what I want? Am I not getting what I want? Are other people loving me, or other people not loving me? It is a focusing on ourselves. Whereas if a person says, are these other people okay? Is this person okay? Does this person have what he needs? Then all of this disappears, you see. And especially when we see how lucky we are in relationship to 90% of humanity. I'm crying about something someone said, but this person doesn't even have legs, or this person doesn't even have food, or doesn't even see, you see. So serving, it also can be an escape. Someone can also use that as an escape from their problems and get so involved with others that they're not at all aware of themselves. We're not interested in that either. We're interested in a balanced life in which we are working on ourselves, but that we're also expanding beyond ourselves. Another technique which we use is called the transformation of the various aspects of the subconscious. We do the transformation of the physical problem, the transformation of the emotion, or the transformation of the belief. We mentioned this in our class about relaxation. And what is the idea here? I let my emotion take a form in my mind, and then I speak with that form, and I ask this form, this emotion that is part of myself, which has this emotion, how and when were you born in me? When did you start to exist within me? At that point, we may get some messages, some images from our childhood years, or we may hear a voice saying something which explains to us when we started feeling fear, or anger, or jealousy, or hurt. And then we ask this part of ourselves, what can I do to help you? What do you need from me? How can I help this part of my being? Then I start feeling a closeness to this part of myself, sending it love, sending it light, allowing it to be permeated by light and love. And at this point, usually what happens is it begins to transform. It could disappear. It could be transformed into this raggedy little child, into this very strong and healthy, happy young child, or from a raggedy old chicken into an eagle. Or I've heard all kinds of transformations taking place.